Hi, this is Jordan Hill with Dirt to Sky Business Podcast, and I would like to thank SMI Real Estate and Clutch Industries for sponsoring this episode. I am here today with my friend and fellow business owner, Devon Groggans.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Always good to see each other outside of church.
I know. Yeah, it's been fun. We've kind of built our businesses up, over the last few years of knowing each other at church, and you've accomplished amazing things just in the time that I've known you.
Oh, thank you. You too. Coming from what, jewelry
Yeah.
background, small real estate empire with you and Mike. I love it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I am really excited to dive into your business a little bit more and more about how you've built it and all that you do. But I would love if you just kind of shared who you are and a little about you and, your family and just kind of what led you to where you are now.
Sure. So Devon Groggans, I am the owner operator of Next Level Training and Physiques. I focus on helping busy businessmen and women reach their health and wellness goals through effective habits, both better eating, wellness, mindfulness, and working out, along with competitive bodybuilding. So I was able to kind of merge the two things that I really enjoy and find a way to be able to do it and make a business out of it. I am a father of two, Grayson and Camden, 10 and 7 years old. They are a lot, I'm sure, as you know.
Oh, yeah. All too well.
Yes. And then husband, my wife, Jacqueline, she's amazing. I wouldn't even be able to do half the stuff I do without her help in 99%
she really
of it.
is.
So yeah, so that's a little bit about me. As far as where things got started, it was probably 2025. So about 10 years ago, I had finished playing college baseball. I was looking for kind of the next challenge. And I knew some people that were bodybuilding and competing. I actually had some family members growing up. My aunt was a bodybuilder. My dad was a bodybuilder. And so I was like, well, it'd be cool to get into that. And so I reached out to a friend who I knew competed and coached and just said, hey, I want to get into this. What do I need to do? And so he kind of wrote out a plan, said, this is where we start. This is what we're going to shoot for. And I did it. The first show I competed at was Seven Feathers in 2014 or 15. And I fell in love with the process. Like, the show was cool. The stage, all that was really fun, but I really fell in love with the process of being able to manipulate both food and training to be able to get my body to look a certain way. And I just remember being done with the show and thinking, I want to do this for other people. So immediately went out and took, I think it was ISSA, got my personal training certification, did in-person training for probably all of about 6 months, which I enjoyed, and then just decided that I was trading a lot of time for money that was okay. And I started seeing other people really making an impact online. They were able to reach more people. They were able to work with more people. And so I really started diving into working with people, not just locally, but outside of the area as well. And so that's now really what I do is I have maybe 4 or 5 people that I work with in person, but the bulk of my business and my clientele are spread all over from East Coast to Medford, Oregon, and everywhere in between.
That's amazing. And that your reach, when it's online, your reach is endless. And I think COVID taught us that not everything has to be in person. In fact, sometimes it's more productive to be doing things remotely or at home, including people, being trained by you.
Absolutely.
They don't have to be in person with you.
Yeah. And it's more flexible. I mean, take somebody like yourself who, real estate, if somebody has a showing at 4 p.m., then okay, that's a canceled session.
Yeah.
Rather than missing out on that session, we would work together at the capacity where you know what your training schedule is, you know what your eating regimen is, and then it's on you to just kind of knock out the training portion when you have the time. So if a 4 o'clock meeting comes up, well, you can shift that to 5 or earlier to 3 or whatever works for you, but you're still getting the results based off of primarily the nutrition, the accountability, and the habits that are being built through working with somebody like myself.
Exactly. When you moved your coaching from in person to mostly online, was that something that a lot of other coaches were doing at that time, or?
It was kind of right on par. I was starting to see, so my coach
Mm-hmm.
it was almost a hybrid model. I would go and see him once or twice a week, but then the bulk of what we did was handled online.
Mm-hmm.
And I adopted that approach and quickly failed at it. And it wasn't until I started working with kind of a newer coach that, when it came to bodybuilding,
Mm-hmm.
really showed me a better way to do that. And it wasn't so much that he taught me, but I feel like success leaves clues. And so I looked at his training regimen as far as what he did with clients. He was actually one of the first to do it. Skip Hill, amazing trainer. And I just remember thinking, like, what makes him so good that he's keeping all of these clients for so long?
Mm-hmm.
And it really just came down to the rapport. My coach, I would basically send him my updates
Mm-hmm.
and he would send me a response. That was it.
Okay.
My newer coach, it was completely different. It was how, he actually wanted to learn about me. How are your wife and kids? What are you guys doing this weekend?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was more to it than just the X's and O's, I like to say, of the training aspect.
Yeah.
It made it more like a friendship, but it
Yeah.
also made it harder for me to cheat on the process because I felt like I was letting somebody down that was really cared about me, as opposed to somebody that was just like, okay, here's what you do next.
Yes.
And so I started to adopt that, and that's when I really started seeing changes in my business.
Mm-hmm.
People staying with me longer, more referrals, people being more enjoyable with these, not only success, but just everything that was happening. And so that's really what, I guess, to wrap that up. No, I was not the first. I kind of stumbled into it as it was picking up, but I feel like I quickly found out how to operate within that space. Whereas I still to this day see a lot of trainers that are kind of fly by night just because they have the credentials, they have the knowledge, but they lack the personability and the people skills that you would still give to somebody in a one-on-one aspect. Just find a way to do it from a distance.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable. I mean, there are just anytime you're in any kind of a saturated market, sometimes just having the credentials, I mean, that's just not going to be it. It's that personal connection and that relationship that sets you apart.
Yeah. And I'm sure anybody that's on Instagram, I mean, I know the algorithm favors what you typically look at, but you can throw a pebble and find some sort of fitness influencer. And so, to really set yourself apart, it requires kind of a next level approach, which is kind of what I came up with the business name, to be able to guide people to get the results that they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you are accepting new clients, who's your target, client, I guess I should say?
Yeah. So my target client is the busy mom, the busy dad, somebody that has a job, may or may not have kids, but they're always on the go and just feel like they don't have time to fit health and fitness into their life.
Yeah.
And I hear that more often than not. I just don't have time for the gym. I don't have time to, eat healthy, or it's too expensive. And I think if you do it, I don't want to say do it right, but I think that if you're really in a position where you want to make a change, you'll find ways to make that change. And I help people create the habits that are needed to make that change.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how do you market to your target audience?
Yeah. So
do they find you, or do you?
A little bit of both. I mean, coming from a marketing background, all of the basic stuff. I have my website, social media. I post a lot on social media. And my thought, I know we had talked about it a little bit before the cameras turned on, is I try to just give away as much information as possible.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I think one of three things will always come from giving away as much information as possible. A, somebody's going to take that information, run with it, have success with it, and then wave your flag because they were able to say, hey, I got information from Devon and this is what I was able to do with it. B, their head's going to spin because it's so much information, or they don't even know where to start. And this is typically when a client reaches out to me, is they'll say, hey, I'd like to work with you so I can get a better understanding of how to put these pieces together. Or C, they might just hear something that I say, think of somebody that could help, and then refer them, and either they have success or that person then comes and talks to me. And I've had all three of those situations happen. And
Yeah.
so I try to just give away as much information. I'm constantly giving out free guides, ebooks, and then just trying to litter my social media with useful information that people that are in the position that I know I was in, just feeling stuck, feeling like they don't have the time, not even knowing where to start, just giving them that information to be able to run with it.
Yeah, that's great. And there's, with doing that and having that abundance mindset, there are still enough that really need you that can find you using this method. So I think that's really great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is social media your primary marketing tool for your business?
Right now, social media is the primary driver. I have a podcast, so I've been getting more involved on that. I've been doing some more in-person types of events, trainings, talks. I just actually met with the Salem Capitals last week. I talked to them, local basketball team, talked to them about the importance of nutrition. It was funny because I came in, I'm thinking, okay, how can I relate to these guys? And when most people see me, they just think, okay, bodybuilder, meathead, gym bro, whatever, fill in the blank. But I played college baseball. I used to, snowboard. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. And so I look back and wish that I had the information that I have now back then. And I think how much further could I have gone? And so as I was coming up with, okay, what am I going to say to these guys? I walk in and they kind of circled around, and being a baseball person, I was like, okay, stats. Like, if you don't know your stats, just like in business, you got to know, your sales, you got to know everything. So I walk in and I say, okay, how many people here know their stats? And they all kind of look like, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
And I said, who here knows their shooting percentage? Everybody raised their hand. Who here knows how much time they spent on the court the last game or two? Everybody raised their hand. Who here knows what their macro breakdown is for their weekly meals? Everybody started looking at each other. Who here knows what a macro is? Like, maybe one person raised their hand. So then I just dove into the importance of proteins, carbs, fats, how they're implemented, how they help. Proteins for muscle recovery, carbohydrates for proper energy, different types of carbs based on when you need that energy, how long that energy needs to sustain you. I tried to keep it very surface level. And then fats for hormonal balance and for keeping you satiated or full. And it really connected with them. So just trying to do those sorts of things where I can go talk to different groups, kind of meet them where they're at. And that's really what I'm big on, is meeting people where they're at. I've worked with a lot of coaches where they have a box and it's your job as a client to fit into their box. Whereas I have an approach that I can meet you where you're at, and depending on where you're at will determine what phase you kind of fall into within the program that I operate in.
Yeah, that's really, and you're truly learning them. Like you don't have one size fit all approach. I mean, and so that's really great. Tell me a story maybe of somebody that you met them where they were at and that it truly changed their life. I mean, I'm sure everybody in your program, if they're doing the work, that's the case, but I'd love to hear, a story or two.
So there's one that comes to mind. I actually was just talking to somebody about this the other day. It was she's about our age, 34 to 36, right in there. She's got 3 kids. She had reached out because a friend of hers had really good success working with me, and she just wanted a meal plan. And it's probably one of the things I absolutely hate doing the most is writing a one-off meal plan, because there's no magic in me writing somebody a meal plan. The magic is in making the adjustments, helping somebody overcome certain habits or certain things that they didn't think they were capable of doing, and continually progressing and pushing to help them get where they want to be. So we had a couple of conversations. She just wanted the meal plan. I for all intents and purposes said I wasn't going to do it, which kind of frustrated her. And then I came back and said, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will write you out 3 months at a slightly lower rate. And if you start seeing changes within that, then we'll switch to my normal rate. And I don't hold contracts for anybody. And I do that for 2 reasons. One is I don't want people to feel like they have to be locked into something. although I do feel commitment is a big part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
But the other is I want them to know that I'm continually working for them. So it's not like, okay, cool, you signed up for 9 months, now I'm out.
Yeah.
But anyway, we finally got everything situated. She's like, okay, I'll do it. We worked together for about 6.5 months. The first phase is always fixing. So small tangent, I'll circle it back around. The approach that I use, I call the FAT method.
Uh-huh.
I used to call it something else, but FAT was funny because
Yeah.
people are like, I'm trying to lose weight. The method called the FAT method.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's a 3-phase approach. The first phase is for fix. Mm-hmm. And in that first phase, we're usually working on building strength, fixing your metabolism, mm-hmm. fixing digestion, increasing energy. And mm-hmm. all of that requires more food 9 times out of 10.
Okay.
Most people that come to me, especially women, are under eating and overexerting, lots of cardio, sometimes weights, and then usually eating the bare minimum, if not less. Mm-hmm. And so I said, hey, for the first few weeks, months, mm-hmm. just depends until your body starts to respond in a positive manner, because all of that is stress on the body. And that's the first thing we want to do is remove the stress. Trying to take somebody that's already in a stressful state and then have them get leaner is just more stress, and your body fights and fights and fights. Mm-hmm. So we took her and added some food in. Already she was getting better energy, spending more time with the kids. Her and her husband would go on fishing trips. She said that she was feeling better on the fishing trips. Scale weight barely went up a little bit, but she was starting to notice some impact in getting stronger in the gym. Yeah. So that was the first phase. Second phase is accelerate. I said, cool, your body's working with us now. Mm-hmm. You're in a position where we can actually start removing calories. Mm-hmm. You're not going to feel like you're starving. You're actually dieting on more food than you even came to me at. And she started losing weight. The last phase is transition. Mm-hmm. So in that accelerate phase, that was probably, out of the 6 to 7 months, that was probably 3 months that we spent there. Mm-hmm. We spent about 2 months in the first phase. So that puts us at 5. Mm-hmm. At 5 months, she had then lost close to 24 pounds, 25 pounds. Yeah. Wow. Her big goal was to be bikini ready by spring, summerish. Mm-hmm. And when we got to the last phase, which is transition, because I always tell everybody, I want to give you the tools you need to succeed. I don't want you to have to count calories or macros for the rest of your life, but I want you to have an understanding of what it looks like to eat for your goals. Once you have that, then you know that you can eat a little bit more if you want to increase energy or gain some weight, muscle, whatever, or decrease a little bit, and you'll be able to lose some weight. So she got a really good understanding of that. And let's see, we parted ways, and it was a good thing. Yeah. Because she said, hey, I have all the tools that I needed. Yep. You not only helped me lose, 25, 30 pounds. I have more energy to be with my kids. Mm-hmm. When we go on fishing trips, I don't freak out because I know I know what I can eat, what I can bring. Mm-hmm. I can still have a couple of snacks and not completely undo all the work. And so I think that was one of the most impactful, because it was somebody who literally went from fearing eating more food than she was to not only having a better understanding of the amount of food that she needed to maintain her now found success and goals. Mm-hmm. But she has more energy for herself. She has more energy for her family. And so it's just a testament to one of the things that I always say, which is most people don't have a fat loss problem, because we all know if you move more, eat less, you're going to burn fat, but they have a weight management problem. It's how do we keep that off? Yes. Yeah. And so to be able to help somebody with that. And then even now I got a message from her. We've now been, I think 3 months that we've no longer worked together, but she sent me a message. It's just, it's why I love doing what I do. And she said, thank you so much for everything that you've taught me. I'm still progressing. I'm still getting better. And it's because of you that I was able to basically remove this fear around food and around fitness. And so that's what I love doing.
That's amazing. Man, I bet that just gave you the
goosebumps. Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Changing lives. Yeah. And I was going to ask a little bit more just when you talked about how she had the fear and the anxiety around it, and it can feel overwhelming. And especially when someone is committing to a program like yours, do you find that people are nervous of all of the, maybe what they might view as rules and regulations, and they might feel like it isn't sustainable just in everyday life? Like, are you able to make it something that can be integrated into life long term? Or
Yes. So I really feel that going 0 to 100 is the quickest way to burn out. And that's why you see so many resolutioners that fizzle after, February or March, because they go from having never worked out or 1 or 2 days a week, eating, kind of whatever they want, to getting very strict in their eating, removing things that they enjoyed altogether, and then going to the gym, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And it's just not sustainable. They don't see the results that they expect to see after years of after years of, I should say, doing. It's not undone in a couple of weeks or months. So they burn out or they give up. So what I try to do is, again, when I meet people where they're at, I find out what they're doing. If it's somebody who drinks 4, 5, 6 sodas a week, or energy drinks, or high sugary coffee, it's hey, let's focus on just getting protein in, and let's try and go from 6 coffees a week to 4 coffees a week. Then as time goes, that goes down to maybe 1 coffee a week on a day that, like on a Friday, or if you and your husband go on a coffee date, let's save it for that day. So it's just molding their lifestyle around fitness instead of just trying to inject fitness directly into what they're doing. So it makes it more sustainable, it makes it long term, and it makes it easier to adapt, because we're not removing, we're just adjusting the parameters in which they're still getting the enjoyment from certain things that they like. I've had some people where coffee creamer was like a must. Okay, cool. That's the free spot on bingo. As long as we know you're using that every day, we can remove other things around it. And if you're okay with having a 1/4 cup less of, I don't know, potatoes, or a little bit less olive oil when you cook your meals so that you can have your creamer, then not a problem. And for most people, they'd rather have that creamer. So that's okay.
Right. Exactly.
Because if that's what helps you stick to the other 99% of your plan, then you're going to see success that way, instead of, well, now I don't even get my creamer, so what's the point of doing this? And then it's just a relapse and a binge and a this and a that. So So I try to, again, just meet people where they're at. I try to incorporate habits that slowly help change over time. And that's what makes it sustainable.
What tools or platforms do you use for your client communication? Like, is it just, over text message, or do you have like an app, or what do you use for that?
So I only laugh because I used to, when I first started, I went all in on like, I think it was Trainerize or so. I was paying like $70 or $80 a month for this app that did all these things. And then after about 8 or 9 months, client consensus was they just wanted simple. They're like, the app's great and it does all these cool things, but I kind of just wish that I could email you or do this and not have to do it through the app. Or so honestly, now everything is just email. I email their plans to them. They email their check-ins to me. And it just keeps it very, very simple. I've had a couple people ask about that, moving to an app, but the majority, when I ask everybody, is
they want to just email you directly.
This is very simple. And so I answer all my emails usually same day, but all of them within 24 hours. So
that's great. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm trying to think what would be something good for business owners to learn from. Like, you mentioned something in here that living a far better life than you could imagine takes much less time than you think. Could you talk about that, like even just in your own life as a business owner? Or
absolutely. So I think we go through different seasons of life. This last year I competed. I got my pro card for bodybuilding.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. But the dedication that took and the time it took away from my family is not something that at this season of life I would even remotely be able to think about. And I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to business owners, they feel like because they have so much going on that they don't have time to live their best life. And when I say live their best life, I'm a firm believer that you can't pour into anybody else if your cup is not full. And part of that is your health. And oftentimes people don't realize how bad, I'll just say it that way, they feel until they feel better.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of clients that are like, wow, I did not realize how much inflammation or how much energy I did not have until I started doing these things. But it's not the amount of time that people think. You don't have to spend hours in the gym. I've worked with clients where literally 20-minute workouts 3 times a week and then just eating right for them has made huge impacts on their body. And the science even shows like the amount of time and actual activity that it takes to not only maintain, but even build strength, to build muscle, is a lot less than what people think. And so I have programs that are 15-20 minutes where you can get in and out of the gym very, very quickly, or even do things at home. And so I try to bring to light, and that's one of the things I talk about a lot on my Instagram, is if you're short on time, here's, what to do. But to give away some free tips today, since I was just talking about always giving stuff away, doing something like an upper body, lower body split, or full body 3 days a week, and just pick one exercise that incorporates each body part. So chest, back, shoulders, legs. You can get in and out doing 2 sets of 8 to 10, so long as the intensity is high. It has to be challenging.
Yep.
But most people can get in and out doing 15-20 minutes and you're there. Air squats, push-ups. So even if you don't have a gym, you can get it done. Things like going on a 5-minute walk after you eat to help with digestion. If you are meeting somebody with coffee, or for coffee, or even just for a meeting, if it's nice outside, take it outside, go on a walk.
Right. Yeah.
Little things like that is really what I try to help people focus on, especially when they're short on time.
Yeah, exactly. We should have recorded this on a walk.
Right?
A run.
Aaron, just hook all the equipment up, bring the light.
Oh, so now and how long has it been since you started Next Level?
So officially for Next Level, it's been about 2 years.
Okay.
Prior to that, it was just kind of me training where and when I could.
Yeah.
But for the past, it's right about on 2 years now that I've really dove in and made this an actual business.
Which part of the reason for starting this podcast is because the business failure rate is so high, and it just keeps each year that you're in business, the rate gets even higher. So the fact that you've made it 2 years and you're thriving is a huge, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so people listening are going to want to, hear from you so that they can make it 2 years and then some. But what has been a challenge for you? Something that an obstacle you've had to overcome, or you're still trying to figure out how to overcome it with owning your own business?
The biggest obstacle right now, and really just since I've started, especially in this, like you said at the beginning, it's a very saturated industry. I'm sure similar to like real estate.
Oh yeah.
So very, very saturated. So trying to sift through all of, people that are there that you can do better than, but just sifting through all the noise. We'll just say that's been difficult. And then, social media is really the play for just about everything now. It's where people are going for searches. It's where people are going for business. So really just getting a stronghold on that. And I feel like I'm making progress, but those have been kind of the two most difficult aspects, is just getting above the noise of a flooded industry and being able to really create a stronghold through social media. I will say my average client stays with me for around 16 to 18 months.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah. So I'm not turning, which is really good. It's just getting that constant flow that can be difficult.
Yeah. What is some advice you have for other business owners that are learning to sift through the noise of everybody else that says they're offering the same thing?
Definitely.
What are some ways to do that?
So one of the main tips is the same thing I tell people when it comes to fitness and health: consistency, consistency, consistency. You don't have to post every day, but at least make sure that you're posting on a consistent basis, a couple times a week. And then when you do post, put thought behind your posts, put thought behind your marketing. Where is the end result? What do I want when I put this piece out? What do I want that end result to be? Do I want somebody to download a free guide? Do I want somebody to reach out to me directly? Do I want somebody to take this information and send it to a friend? Once I have an understanding of what I want that person to do or the response I want to create, then I work backwards. Okay, what does that piece then need to say? And then what can I put with that as far as a photo, a video, or whatever the case may be that will then align all of that to make it happen. So be consistent in your messaging, be consistent in your posting, and have a clear understanding of who you're talking to and what you want that person to do as an end result.
That's great. So you definitely have to be consistent in your strategy and your planning for the week.
That's a huge thing. And I think that's why I love marketing, business, and fitness, because they all kind of follow the same principles. It's just in a different way. Like every Sunday, I'm planning out our meals as far as dinner. I'm getting my food ready for the week. And then I'm going and I'm sitting down and I'm saying, okay, what are my newsletters for the week going to be? What are the derivatives that I want for a response this week? Am I looking to gain more traction in phone calls or form fills, or do I really just want to create more of my community in bringing people to my Facebook group? Like, what are those? And so all of those things kind of intertwine. And yes, just being consistent, have a plan.
Yeah. In your marketing or your newsletters or anything that you do as far as content, do you use AI at all, or is it all, you build it from scratch?
So I used to build it all from scratch. It took me forever.
Right.
I slowly started incorporating like Chat GPT, and I was doing it the wrong way.
Okay.
I thought that, cool, I just tell this robot like what I want, it spits it out, and then I'm good to go. Not the case. I found that the more information I give it on the front end, the better the information it gives me on the back end. And so now I still oversee, I use it as an assistant rather than a direct go-to, I guess you could say. And what I mean by that is I'll tell it everything that I need, the tone in which I need it to say it, the specific points that I needed to touch on, and then it will write out kind of the article, and then I'll go in and fine tune it. And that has saved me so much time to where I can now backlog. I do about 2 newsletters a week. When I was doing them by hand, I was maybe getting ahead 1 week if I was lucky. And now I write out my marketing strategy 12 weeks at a time. With the use of AI, I'm able to curate the most of my posts along with almost all 12 weeks of 1 to 2 newsletters a week. And I can get all of that done within the course of a couple of days. And then, have basically a quarter of content ready at a time.
Yeah. That's a game changer right there. Oh my gosh. So you just had, you had to figure out how to use it correctly and to work for you and not instead of you, because that's not possible. People want you, but
I found the key is in the prompting. So the more information you can give it up front and be very, very specific. And fun fact, I'm going to tell everybody right now, I just learned this. I heard on 2 separate podcasts on 2 separate occasions. When you are using like Chat GPT, the nicer that you are to it, the better the information will become. And I have found that to be true, because I used to just say, write me a da-da-da-da. Now I say, can you please? And when it writes me something that is good, I will tell it, thank you so much. This is perfect. This is brilliant. This is great, whatever. And every time I talk to it more as if it were human. And I kid you not, over the last probably month, I have had to make less and less changes to what I've had to tell it.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Being nice just goes a long way.
Right? So even to AI, being nice goes a long way.
Wow, that's so interesting.
But the podcasts both were saying like the nicer you are to it, the better the information will be that it gives you.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay. I think all of us are going to be saying please and thank you now.
So say your please and thank yous.
That's so great. So just in closing, I mean, just seeing how you impact other people's lives and transforming their lives, for the first time ever, they're able to have a grasp and like control over a very intimidating part of their life. Like, so that's really amazing.
Mhm.
And so I would love to hear from you if your biggest transformation, take that as
Sure.
you will, whether it's physical or mental or with your business, just something that over the last few years that you can look back on and just have seen within yourself.
So if you would have asked me this question 5 or 6 years ago, it probably would have been a physical trait. It would have been, the competition prep and going from being fairly overweight. I was always athletic, but I was always overweight. You can't out-train a bad diet. And I was never one to really eat right.
Yeah.
And so I probably would have said that. Where I'm at now in this stage of life with family, with the business, I can say the biggest change that I've gone through is the mental capacity that I have around nutrition, around family, and the connection that they have with each other. Prep, I enjoy it. There's not many people that say they do.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate the amount or lack of energy that I have to be there for my family. I love now having such a good understanding of nutrition and training that I can knock out a quick 15-minute workout, know what's going to help fuel my body, know what's going to allow me to make it to my kids' games, practices, show up for my wife on date night, not be tired, not have brain fog. So that's the biggest transformation, is learning and understanding, like I said earlier, that it doesn't require the amount of time that people think you have to put into it to have a life that is of abundance. And when I say that, it's not always monetarily, but that would be my biggest transformation, is just a better understanding of how to fuel my body and help others do the same, to be able to show up for whatever it is they need to show up for day in and day out, and be able to sustain that long term.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wow. Well, everybody listening, please find Devon Groggans on Instagram. Is it dgrow39?
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just tagged you. That's how it's fresh in my mind. But follow him, see what he does. He like he said, gives so much away for free. And of course, that's just very inspiring for the rest of us. So, but thank you so much for being on here.
Thanks for having
me.
me.
It was so awesome having you. And hopefully we'll do it again sometime soon.
Absolutely.